Hello, everyone. So, the topic I chose to talk about for this project is human trafficking. Before we talk about that, I just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Carrie Dolak. I'm a first semester senior, and I'm majoring in criminal justice as well as minoring in legal studies. So, to give a quick overview of what I will be talking about, we'll be talking about America's role in the global combat against human trafficking. Human trafficking, is also known as modern slavery, has denied nearly 25 million people their rights to freedom, especially within the last 20 years. The United States has gotten involved by trying to help people that have fallen victim to this heinous crime. There have been many agencies created to serve year-round and address many different aspects of human trafficking in both the United States and around the world. Due to COVID-19 and the pandemic, individuals have become even more vulnerable to exploitation to traffickers. So that is what I'm going to be focusing more on, is how COVID has impacted human trafficking. What is human trafficking? Defined by our Department of Justice, human trafficking is a crime that involves exploiting a person for labor, services, or commercial sex, and it has two subcategory definitions. The first one stating, sex trafficking in which a commercial sex act is induced by force, fraud, coercion, or in which the person induced to perform such act has not attained 18 years of age. The second definition stating, the recruitment, harboring, transporting, provision, or obtaining of a person for labor or services through the use of force, fraud, coercion, for the purpose of subjection to involuntary servitude, peonage, debt bondage, or slavery. Why is it a global problem? Nearly every country is affected by human trafficking. The global pandemic of COVID-19 has significantly affected human trafficking rates by increasing the number of individuals who are left vulnerable to human trafficking. Governments diverted resources towards the pandemic, which decreased protection measures against human trafficking. Human traffickers quickly adapted to capitalize on this vulnerability, which included survivors who were tempted when employment and income had dried up for them, individuals in undersized communities that lacked health care, and foreigners who were stigmatized as carriers of COVID-19 became even more of a target. Trafficker adaptations. So, these traffickers targeted people unable to mitigate, adapt to, or build resilience against the pandemic, which included people who were confined to their home or workplace, households in need of financial support, and workers in informal sectors. They also targeted families who were promised fraudulent job offers for their children, or families who had sold or exploited their children to traffickers to support themselves. They also targeted survivors to re-exploit themselves due to reasons stated in the previous slide. Global examples. In India and Nepal, young girls from poor and rural areas were expected to leave school during the pandemic to support their families. Some of them were also forced into marriages for money or forced to work to make up for the lost money. In the US, the UK, and Uruguay, landlords forced their tenants to have sex if they could not pay their rent. And in Haiti, Niger, and Mali, gangs operated in the internationally displaced persons camps, took advantage of the reduced security and limited protection to force the residents to perform commercial sex acts. Increase in online exploitation. Online grooming and recruitment increased as children spent more time online during lockdown. There was an increase globally of commercial sexual exploitation and sex trafficking, specifically for online sexual exploitation of children and child sexual exploitation material. The U.S. National Center for Missing and Exploited Children reported a 98.66% increase on online enticement between January through September of 2020, compared to the same timeline in 2019. Reports to the cyber tip line also doubled to 1.6 million. In the Philippines, the Philippine Department of Justice saw an increase in potential online sex trafficking and online sexual exploitation of children, which increased nearly 300% during lockdown. They also experienced a 95% increase in online searches for child sexual exploitation material. America's involvement. There have been certain programs who have played a major contribution to America's involvement in the fight against human trafficking. Department of States and Labor and the U.S. Agency for International Development managed a total of 120 international counter-human trafficking projects across more than 40 different countries. The goal of those projects were prevent, protect, and prosecute, which by doing so meant holding webinars, trainings, or even e-learnings, which were hosted by law enforcement officers, all to bring and raise awareness against human trafficking. The U.S. aid has given over $340 million to 88 countries and regions for assistance to fight against human trafficking since 2001. They published a C-tip field guide that has been distributed to many different missionaries worldwide, like Africa, Asia, Europe, Eurasia, Latin America, the Caribbean, and the Middle East. As we know, human trafficking is an issue that is very prominent not only in the United States, but globally, and unfortunately has continued to be even more of a problem with the pandemic that we've experienced. Traffickers not only have become more resourceful in adapting their ways, but have been even more successful because of this lockdown, because of the vulnerability that this pandemic has left many people in.